So how do we overcome nutritional plateaus? All right, I'm going to go through 5 points on simply overcoming nutritional plateaus. First point here is being aware of what you're snacking on. A lot of people will try to find snacks through the day. A lot of people will find snacks not because they've scheduled in snacks. A lot of people will find snacks because they're hungry. So for example, you might get a client that, has breakfast. So they get up and they realize, okay, I need to have breakfast. So they have breakfast. They might have a really early lunch. So they have, say, breakfast at 8 o'clock. They might have an early lunch at 11 o'clock. And then the day gets really busy for them. So from 11 all the way till about 5 or 6 in the evening, they're not eating, right? Because they've got 3 meals. But because the day has taken its toll on them, they're just so busy, they've got phone calls, life comes in the way, they're not eating throughout that period of time. So what happens is that between 11 and 6 p.m., they will be hungry. What do you think they would do? Ideally, they would, have planned a meal in between, but given the circumstances, they'll probably go into, the pantry, take something out, especially now if you're working from home. That's very common. A lot of people stock up certain foods in the pantry that's so easy to go in and grab and consume. And then they'll go, oh my gosh, I put in a snack, but I was so hungry, but I was. So, people like to justify that. These, again, are examples of clients that I've worked with. They've given me such excuses. I think it's very important to be aware, not just on what you're snacking, but also how to overcome the cravings for snacking. Sometimes snacking is done when you're bored. You've nothing to do. You've got big breaks in between. Sometimes snacking is done when you're extremely hungry and you haven't eaten enough through the day. Sometimes snacking is done when your caloric count is too low. You're not enough calories through the meals that you're eating. And you're thinking, okay, well, I've eaten 3 meals. I don't have enough calories. And that helps me to lose fat. But in the process of being so hungry, you snack, right? You give into those urges. And what becomes worse is that the choice of snacks that you snack on could be muffins or cakes or muesli bars or things that are extremely high in sugar, because that's what you gravitate towards. So a strategy really is learning to eat more regularly, learning to plan to make sure that through the day, if there are certain times that there are going to be big breaks where you're not going to eat, try to plan to have a calculated snack, a snack that is available for you. Now, when I talk about snacks down here, I would move away from processed foods. A protein bar is considered a processed food. Protein shakes, things like your protein mousses, all these protein products. A lot of them are called processed foods. They're in fact ultra processed foods because they're not really designed to be a snack. Let's put it that way, and benefit your hormones and benefit your body at the same time. A protein shake, for example, was designed to be a sort of a post-workout supplement. So when you take a refined protein post-workout, it is very, useful in helping to upregulate or utilize insulin sensitivity. So when you have finished your workout, you are highly insulin sensitive. This is where when you take in a protein shake together with some carbs, protein and carbs are highly absorbed into the muscles because we're talking about a depleted muscle that we use the protein and carbs for recovery. That's what a shake is being designed for, not through a snack. Not as a snack through the day, because if you're having a protein shake through the day without depleting your muscles, essentially, what is the purpose of that? Right? So a protein shake would only increase, upregulate insulin, and basically giving you an insulin spike through the day. Is that insulin spike warranted? Is it necessary? If you consistently spike insulin, we know that obviously that will contribute to more fat gain in the long run. So a protein shake could actually lead to you putting on more fat. Very similar to a lot of the products, the protein bars and stuff that you will find, they may not be as insulinogenic as a protein shake, but a lot of these bars contain hydrogenated oils, it contains fillers, it contains a whole range of things that may not be conducive to changing your body composition in the long run. All right, so I typically tell them to look for whole foods. Now, there has been a big demonization of fruits. Fruits are high in sugar, so you should stay away from fruits if you want to lose fat. Well, here's the truth of it, is that I have clients who are trying to lose fat who will not lose fat if they look for alternatives such as protein bars. However, if they are eating fruits, and I kid you not, and I'm telling them, okay, go and eat whatever fruits you want to eat. If you really wanted 3 apples, have 3 apples. At the end of the day, you will find that these particular clients will lose fat. Why? Because as a whole fruit, there is a lot of fiber in there. There is a lot of nutrients in there as well. So fruit in itself, looking and considering the fact that, yes, they're taking in sugar, but compared to the amount of sugar that they'll be taking in if they didn't eat those fruits and looked for an alternative, that would have been a worse alternative. So I always say that, if you want a snack in the middle of the day, look for whole foods. Whether you're looking for a higher protein snack such as jerky, for example, or you're looking for whole fruits or veg, that's perfectly fine. But processed foods will tend to lead to sort of short-term satiety and lead to you wanting for more. So it's very important that you are aware of what you're snacking on. Now, the other point under this category is learning to keep your calories similar throughout the entire day. Some people will save their calories for the night, and so they don't eat enough breakfast or eat enough lunch, and they go, I'm going to save my calories for the night because the big break in between lunch and dinner will cause them to be so hungry, all right, that they tend to overeat at dinner. And again, we understand that what can spike your insulin is not just the type of food, but also the amount of food that you take in. So if you're eating a large amount of food, you take in a lot of protein at any one point in time, you can also spike insulin. And so that's not an ideal, approach to take. Okay, right? You want to be able to spread your calories evenly through the day. So honestly, if I were to I would give a meal plan to a client. Ideally, I would like to look at 4 meals throughout the entire day. So if I were to give a caloric plan of 1,800 or 2,000 calories to a client, ideally I would look at splitting the 2,000 calories into 4 meals in the day, each meal having about 400 to 500 calories. Yes, sure, you can talk about things like, okay, what about post-workout? Maybe I should give them more food post-workout just to help recover or recuperate the muscles. So we're talking here about the concept of nutrient timing your nutrients specifically through events in the day to help benefit the body. Well, can you do that? Yes, you can, but I'm going to tell you the effect of nutrient timing just on calories itself based on the client and how they're training is actually going to be minimal in comparison to the body composition results they're going to get if they spread out their calories through the entire day. And one of the big reasons of why I like to do that is because it increases satiety, which means that if they're fuller in between meals, they are less likely to crave and look for foods and snacks in between meals. So you are effectively minimizing their thought process of what snacks they should be taking, but also their hunger levels. And I find that a very effective strategy to actually overcome a lot of their hunger or even emotional binging and eating. All right, so that's really to eat on a regular basis and to keep calories quite even in between meals itself. Point number 2 of overcoming calorie plateaus or overcoming nutritional plateaus, is calorie cycling. Calorie cycling is basically learning to change the amount of calories you're putting in through the week so that your body doesn't adapt or stagnate to a given amount of calories. We spoke much earlier, one of the reasons for stagnation is that you are giving the same amount of calories or you're following the same amount of macro proportions, same carbs, fats, proteins at any one point in time for an extended period. And so the body plateaus. So calorie cycling is all about playing around with changing the calories that you're eating per meal or not per meal per se, per day or throughout the entire week in order to elicit, I guess, a change in body composition. So typically, again, with calorie cycling, a lot of people will look at a process of doing high days and low days. High days are where your calories are a lot higher. Low days are where your calories are kept at base. So a lot of people would calorie cycle based on their training cycle itself. If you're training on this day, you go for higher calories because your body needs it. If you're not training, you go for lower calories. Now, can you do that? Yes, that's not a problem. I've done that before. Does it work? Yes, it does work. However, a lot of the times, that can make the process a lot more complicated if that person is not an athlete, if the person is not competing for a show, the person is just a general pop client, right? Because then they have to think about what to do and all that kind of stuff with regards to calories. So really keep it simple. I like to stick with a base plan of a caloric count throughout the entire week. So I know for most of my clients that are working, Monday to Friday, I can actually create a routine for them because they're working, because they are, they've got their focus on work, and we can make things quite routine. It typically is the Friday evening, Saturday, Sunday that they would, I guess, come out of that routine, whether they're having meals with friends or family, and they'll be a little bit more relaxed. So I will try to keep Monday to Friday and all the meals they have Monday to Friday evenly throughout the entire day, but also at a base calorie count. Let's say my calculated base calorie count for them, in order for them to lose fat, is 1,800 calories, 1,800 calories. So I will split up that entire day, 4 meals, 1,800 calories, split that up evenly from Monday to Friday. And then the weekends, I could say, okay, well, in order to get your metabolic rate going, I can cycle your calories through the weekends. You can have 2 refeed meals or cheat meals, maybe on a Saturday and a Sunday, where you can choose to eat whatever you want. You keep your calories the same with every meal, but just that one meal, you can go out and enjoy yourself. Now, I don't need them to count calories. I don't need them to be over pedantic, because when you're having a refeed meal or a cheat meal, that's actually a good mental break. You also help to, I guess, foster a better environment with the family, because sometimes being too focused on foods itself can actually cause conflict and strife within the family. So in saying so, go out and enjoy yourself. And when you do, and you enjoy your meals, that's great. Don't have to count those calories, but we know that on the Saturday and Sunday, the caloric count is going to be a lot higher than 1,800. It might be, 2,200, 2,300. And then Monday to Friday, it goes back again. But just by doing that, without actually telling them, hey, I'm going to cycle your calories, you give them 2 cheat meals or refeed meals. And what it does is that it actually helps to cycle or change the caloric count through the week, which allows the body to adapt to the low calories for fat loss. And then when the body starts to adapt, you change it up, you give it something different, and it helps to regulate the metabolism. All right. So there is a range of chemical processes that happen within their body from a physiological and endocrine level that allows that plateau to be broken, and for their metabolic rate to increase over the days of the refeed meal. Given the fact that they're training correctly, they're eating correctly through Monday to Friday, right? So I like to cycle my calories in a very simple, straightforward manner. There are many ways of calorie cycling. It is a topic on its own accord that we can delve into, but there are many ways of cycling calories. There is no one way that is better than another way. It is just how convenient it is for the particular client that you're training. Remember, if your client's an athlete, they'll pay more attention to nutrient timing. If your client is not so much of an athlete, I think paying attention so much to food would actually what is the word? It's not so much disadvantages them. It's not convenient. It is a lack of convenience for them. And because it is a lack of convenience, and understand that a nutrition plan needs to be sustainable, the lack of convenience can actually break their adherence to the plan itself. So you've got to make it convenient for them. You've got to give them a solution that is quite straightforward, is easy, and they can still see their body composition change. All right. Calorie cycling is great because it can also help to increase performance post high day. So let's say you are, I give the example of being on 1800 or 1800 calories from Monday to Friday. You find that typically with a lower caloric count, you push fat loss, and then obviously with a higher refeed day, you may not lose fat, but the refeed day is important to upregulate your metabolism. It's also important to let your body know that, hey, there is food coming in, and it can help to reglycogenate, recover your muscles, all that kind of stuff, which is important because this will continue to push your fat loss lower, push your the amount of fat that you're losing, push it further from week to week. So a refeed meal through calorie cycling can actually help to increase performance on the days after a high meal. So if you're having your higher refeed meals on a weekend, Saturday, Sunday, you also tend to find that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday training will actually be quite effective. You will be pushing your body to losing more fat through those sessions because your performance is better. So I would always use the higher meals to increase performance. The regulation of metabolism with calorie cycling is especially important for females, all right? Because the females have a more complex hormonal system compared to males, and obviously a more sensitive hormonal system. So I often will like to, when I would take on a female client, understand that the period is actually a very good thermostat for how their body is functioning and understanding of it. If they're not having a period on a regular basis, if the period is too severe, if the period causes a range of issues with their body, such as bloatedness, such as water retention, lack of sleep, a whole range of different things, then we need to look at what is going on within their life. Now, in saying so as well, if they are dropping their calories for an extended period of time and not actually refeeding their body through calorie cycling, then that can actually disrupt the hormones as well. And that can cause a lot of females to move into bouts of not having the period for an extended period of time. If a female client does not have the period regularly, that can also impact their rate of fat loss. Okay, because the rate of fat loss for a female and the predictable rate of fat loss for a female is often to do with hormones. So if the hormonal composition is being disrupted because of the lack of calories or stress or whatever the case is, then that could actually affect the rate of fat loss. All right, so calorie cycling is a way of overcoming plateaus. The next point is food rotation. Food rotation is a great way of overcoming a nutritional plateau, because when we're talking about rotating your foods, we're not just talking about changing calories. We're talking here about understanding how your body has a particular affinity to protein types. If you are eating the same foods day in, day out, let's say you're eating chicken breast every single day, like most bodybuilders do, research has actually shown in the long run, after staying on the same meats or the same protein for an extended period of time, you tend to build up an intolerance to that particular food. Now, an intolerance is not an allergy. An intolerance can irritate your gut. It can cause a whole range of different things, from massive discomforts to minimal discomforts, but it can also cause a breakdown in gut wall, which leads to stress. Intolerances can lead to things like bloatedness, storage of fluid under the skin that allows a client to appear puffier or fatter than they actually are. So I call that false fat, or fat from water, subcutaneous water under the skin. And basically, if they are having those foods for an extended period of time, they can build up intolerances. And those intolerances are inflammatory responses, which means that if they're holding on to more water within their body based on inflammation, when they weigh themselves, the weight doesn't change. So overcoming plateaus through food rotation really means that if they learn to rotate their sources of protein throughout the entire week, that will benefit them in not building up an intolerance to a food. Not only that, they also expose their body to an increased amount of nutrients, which is going to be extremely helpful. All right, so I like to introduce food rotation for a client whom I feel that has plateaued on a particular food. It also gives them a different palate. When you change the types of meats that the client is eating, the types of veg, the types of carbs they're taking, it makes food a lot more palatable, something they can look forward to rather than staying on the same foods over and over again, because that's monotony. And often their taste buds or their palates will hit a wall when it comes to that. And remember, that's one of the definitions that we spoke about at the start of the seminar, which is hitting a nutritional plateau can also mean that your taste buds have hit that wall and you're eating the same foods and you're sick and tired of eating the same foods. So learn to rotate your foods, learn to change the proteins that you're putting in your body. And often when you rotate your foods, one of the ways of doing so is staying off the food or the particular type of protein as long as you've stayed on it for. Okay, so I repeat myself, it's staying off the particular food or protein as long as you've stayed on it for. So if you have stayed on, let's say, chicken breast for 4 days, every day you're having chicken breast, the next 4 days, you want to abstain from chicken breast completely as you change the source of meat. So you might go to turkey breast, you might go to white fish, you might go to, a leader cut of meat, whatever your wish is with regards to rotating. Okay, that's a factor that you need to put in, whether you're using caloric counts or macronutrient ratios or whatever the case is. Consider food rotation in overcoming a plateau. Okay, that's a very important technique. Now, I don't know whether you guys have heard of this example that I've given before, and if you've listened to some of my lectures and seminars, you may have, but I've had a client that I was prepping for competition. Now, this was a girl who was about 4 to 5 weeks out of comp. And I remember when I got her to weigh herself, typically, the weight of a competitor will drop like clockwork based on the type of nutrition that I give them and the training that I put them through. So I know exactly where their weight will be on comp day and how you can actually change that. How that weight actually changes as you go along. So we're observing that, we're understanding that. But for her, about 4 to 5 weeks out from a competition, her weight kind of plateaued. It did not change at all. And distinctly, I remember that weight was 54 kilos. Now, she's not a very tall girl. She was a really petite female. And at 54 kilos, we wanted her to stand on stage at about 49.50. So she was about 4 kilos off. Now, to lose a kilo a week at that particular weight was quite significant. All right. So it's like, okay, how do I keep pushing a kilo a week? That's not going to happen. So her weight had plateaued over the last 2 to 3 weeks. And we had no reason and understanding why her weight had actually plateaued. So I actually confronted her and I said, your weight has plateaued. If you are training the way I need you to train, and I know because I take her through some sessions, she does sessions on her own accord, and I see her train, I can't question her training because she actually is a very hard worker. She does it well. But all I can question is her nutrition. And I go, because there are things that obviously I don't see you eating. I don't know what you're putting in, but there's something that you're doing that is not right. And at that point of time, 4 weeks out, she was probably calorie depleted, feeling really frustrated. She kind of just screamed at me. She said, "How dare you, coach? How dare you malign me? How dare you tell me that I'm not changing at all?" She was really upset. She kind of cried, opened the door, and walked out. Then I got a message from her later in the afternoon. She said, "Look, I'm sorry, coach, for my outbursts. I'm a bit emotional. And I don't understand why I've worked so hard and my weight has not been changing." And so one thing I asked her again, I said, "Can you please remember, what are you eating through the entire day? Is there anything else that you're putting in that I haven't given to you in our plan? Anything at all? Just think about it and tell me." And this was a message. She got back to me and she goes, "Coach, do you think 2 large lattes in a week can make a difference?" 2 large lattes in a week. Does that make a difference? From a caloric point of view, given the amount of work that she's doing, 2 extra lattes is not going to make a significant difference whatsoever. Okay. However, the point is that she has an intolerance to dairy or milk, and she does not do well with that. This is one main reason why I've taken out any sort of milk products. Cheese, milk, whey, all milk products were out 10 weeks out of comp. I didn't want her to touch any of it because she builds up an intolerance. And we talked about an intolerance just now. If you have an intolerance, you tend to store a lot more water under the skin. So you become puffier. You don't get the definition. So I said, look, it's not about the calories that I'm stopping you to have the lattes. It is really about the fact that you cannot tolerate milk. And right now, this is actually causing you to be inflamed. Your weight is not dropping because you're having 2 lattes in the week, and it's nothing to do with calories. So I need you to stop your lattes right now. You can have your black coffee, but no lattes. And I want to measure your weight in a week's time. So she stopped the lattes. We measured her in a week's time, and she was down at 51.3 kilos. That's 3 kilos within a week itself based on 2 lattes. Nothing to do with calories. If that was a caloric issue, the weight loss would have been a lot less, but also she would not have held on to that weight because she was doing so much. It was the body's reaction to dairy itself, inflamed. Now, does everyone behave that way to dairy? No, but dairy commonly is an inflammatory food for many people, okay, and different variations of dairy. Some people don't associate whey with dairy. Whey is part of dairy as well. So having whey protein can be an inflammatory marker for your body. That's why you see bodybuilders actually stay off whey protein from about 4 weeks out because they realize that whey could bloat them up or store water under the skin. So very important, the food rotation down here in this particular example is that I will tell her to stay off foods because I know the foods will cause an inflammation. So when I keep rotating her food sources, it's to minimize that inflammatory response, minimize any sort of intolerances. I also take out foods that I know she has an intolerance towards. Was she tested for an intolerance to milk itself? No, she wasn't tested. We found that out as we started to rotate her foods. So it's actually a technique that we use as we start to rotate her foods. We realized that the moment she introduced dairy in, the gut didn't work very well. Her bowels didn't work very well. She had diarrhea, not straight away, but the following day she was lethargic. She was also puffier. But again, things like that creep in when you are depleted and you are craving for a latte. That's what you go for. You don't think about it. So I hope this gives you an idea of how food rotation can be extremely important, and rotating it can actually help to overcome nutritional plateaus itself.
Do you know the most frustrating thing about fitness? It's when you're diving head in, giving it all you have, but are not achieving the same amazing results that your friend is. The worst part about that? They're doing exactly the same thing that you are. Now, I've been there and I've done that, and I've made a whole ton of mistakes in doing so. You will not have to go through the same route. In this channel, I will be covering training, nutrition, application, giving you the what to do's, what not to do's, and debunking the bro science and false hype. Here is where you accelerate your results. This paired with the learning platform I've just launched, learnasp.com, will help you understand your body better and tailor the application to yourself. Rediscover fitness, science-driven, easily relatable, and highly applicable.